But stretching our faith isn't just taking risks or doing great big heroic deeds. Stretching our faith basically means that we are prepared to give ourselves into the hands of Christ so that he might entirely change our life. And also that he might entirely change the way we think and what we believe. And that's what's happening in our story today. But it's a story of when Jesus went up to Jerusalem. He went to Jerusalem for a feast, and while he was there, he went to a place called the pool here at Bethesda, because people would bring the lame and the sick and the paralyzed and the disabled and the blind. They would bring them here and lay them all around this area. The idea was that every now and then an angel would stir up the waters, and what would happen is that the waters would bubble up. And when the waters bubbled up, the idea was that they had to get their disabled into the pool as quick as possible, because the first one in the pool would be healed of whatever disease they had. Now, it's what we call a superstition. It wasn't what God was doing. It does seem a bit strange, doesn't it, that God would make disabled people race into a pool. People who couldn't actually move and couldn't use their legs. It would seem strange, wouldn't it, that God would require these people to rush and be the first one in. But people have superstitions. They believe that they can go to certain places and get healed. They believe that they can touch certain things and get healed. They even believe in the power of magic water. But God is saying throughout the Bible, do not put your trust in things like that. Trust in the living God. Trust alone in what Jesus Christ can do. And so Jesus comes into this pool, and he comes across a man who has been here for 38 years, disabled. He's an invalid. And Jesus looks at this man. He knows all about him. He knows how long he's been an invalid. He says to him, "Do you want to get well?" Well, that's a great question, isn't it? Do you want to get well? We're listening to this story thinking, well, of course the man wants to get well. Why else would he be there? But what Jesus wants to do in this man is completely change his life. And he's asking, are you ready for that change? Because once he comes into his life, once this man responds to who Jesus is, he's going to be able to walk, he's going to have responsibilities, he's going to probably get a job, he might get married, his whole life is going to change. And I think Jesus is asking him, are you ready for that change? He's also saying to him, if I heal you, your faith can no longer be in the water, but your faith now has to be in the living God. And the man gives him a good answer. He says this, he says, "Sir, every time I try to get into the pool, when the water is stirred, someone else gets in before me." And I think Jesus hears that, and he knows what the man's trying to say. He's saying, I am trying to get healed. And Jesus needs to hear that bit of faith before he can do anything with him. So what does Jesus do? Does Jesus say, okay, I'm going to stand here now with you, and we're going to wait until the waters bubble up. And when the waters bubble up, I am going to shove you into the pool. Do we hear that in the story? We don't hear that. What does Jesus say to him? He says, forget the pool. Don't worry about it. If this genuinely was a work of God, wouldn't Jesus have done that and said, okay, I'll wait with you until the pool is stirred? He says, no, forget the pool. A greater person than the pool is here. Jesus is here, who has the power to transform your life. He says to him, stand up, pick up your mat, go home. He has to stretch his faith. He has to stretch his body. But as he starts to do it with a willing heart, wanting to do what Jesus is saying, the man finds that now he is able to stand up. He picks up his mat, he goes home. He's transformed by Jesus. To trust in Jesus is not an easy thing, because it means our whole life is going to be changed. The future of our life will be very different from this moment. And I understand why people are nervous to trust Jesus. It also means that we no longer have to trust in what we understand, but we have to give all that up and trust now alone in Jesus Christ and his power. You know, we could say to ourselves, well, why did Jesus ask the man if he wanted to get well? But Jesus asks us daily, do you want to get well? And sometimes we say, well, no, Lord, I don't really want to get well. I don't want to be healed of my sins because I like my sins. I like my sinful lifestyle. I like hanging on to what I am and what I've got and what I understand. The challenge of having my life transformed by you is scary. But that's where our faith gets stretched. This man went home. He had no regrets. He was delighted by what Jesus had done, not just in his body, but the future of his life, and now the fact he could believe in Jesus. And Jesus gives us that same challenge. Be prepared to have your life changed. Be prepared to have your mind and your beliefs changed, and see what wonderful things God can do for you.